jump right into the next item. Inductions. Pavitra, I think you have one. Okay. Daryl, you want to start?
Yeah, good morning. Just want to introduce, today I have with me Mr. Kevin Wine, who's our Director of Planning and Community Development, and Mr. George Allen Mashek, our CIP Manager.
Awesome. Welcome, gentlemen. Anyone else have introductions as I stall for Pavitra getting to her seat?
Good morning. I wanted to introduce a new staff member, Hussein Alegi Menlin, who joined us on June 16th. Hussein, why don't you stand up? Hussein joins our long-range transportation planning team. He comes with a master's in GIS from Jacksonville State University. So he's new to our region. I think he literally just moved here a couple of weeks ago and he's slowly getting used to it. So just wanted to introduce him. We think he'll be a great asset to our team and look forward to working with you all as he gets settled in his role.
Thank you. Welcome. All right, moving to the approval of the agenda. Kathleen has some changes for us.
Good morning, everyone. We have 3 tip amendment handouts, and I just wanted to briefly tell you about them. The first one will be item number 7B10, which will be added to the end of the exempt conformity amendments, the exempt from conformity. And it is in front of you, they're in order, and it is York County Victory Boulevard Shared Youth Path. This came out of TPS and it was a CMEC transfer. However, because it pushed, the increase was over the sliding scale, it needs to now be an amendment. The second one is Portsmouth Emergency Vehicle Preemption Software and Hardware. This is added as 7B11. It's also exempt from conformity. And this is also a CMAQ transfer. However, the same reason, the cost estimate has changed and the increase is outside of the sliding scale, making it an amendment. The last one is not being added, it's being revised. It's item number 7D1, which is the I-64, I-464 interchange phase E. It's under the regional conformity assessment amendments. All 3 of these will trigger a new public notice today for the TIP amendment. However, there does not need to be another interagency consultation for conformity email sent out, because even though this one is an RCA amendment, it's already under consultation, and the only thing that has changed is the allocations and obligations, which does not trigger anything else. The cost estimate has stayed the same, so that is why it can still be under the same consultation email that was already sent out. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it. With that, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments Kathleen just mentioned as well. Have the motion? Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you, sir. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes. Then we'll move on to our public comment period. Any comments from the folks over in the public section over there? All right. Do we have any submitted public comments? All right, we'll keep on moving here to our comments and updates from state and federal agencies, starting with VDOT.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I do have a few updates this morning for you all. First, revenue sharing and transportation alternatives program. Just a reminder, the final applications will be due September 15th. The SMART portal will open August 15th. So August 15th to September 15th to get those final applications in for both programs. And on September 15th, it does close at 5 p.m. So just a reminder there. Also, our 6-year improvement program was approved by the CTB last week. I'll save that for Sonia. She has a presentation coming up later today to go through the highlights of that. And finally, I did want to make a note to the board. This will be my last TTAC meeting representing VDOT. I have accepted a position over at HRTPO as the deputy director. So I start there mid-August. So again, enjoyed working with you all. Look forward to working with you all in my new role, but just wanted to go ahead and make that announcement this morning. That's all I have this morning.
Congrats. All right, anyone from DRPT? Let's see. All right. Other port?
Or, Mr. Chair, no update at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. FHWA? Anybody? And anyone military updates? All right, we will move on to the approval of consent items. Kathleen mentioned some of the changes. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to look at those now that we've gone through some other items, and I will ask for a motion to approve the consent items. Thank you, sir. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, passes. And we will get right into our presentations. These first three presentations do have actions requested, whether it's being approving the report or just the document that is presented. So with that, we'll get started.
Yeah, so agenda item 8 is the congestion management process part 1 final report. Sam Belfield was here last month or May to come and give an update on that part 1 of the report. The document was out for public comment May 7th through June 16th. And today we are asking TTAC to recommend board approval. So this will be on our board agenda at the July board meeting.
Go ahead and get a motion to approve the report. Thank you, sir. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Any?
No, it was.
The
Who was the
second?
second? It was,
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, sir. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? All right. Moving along to item number 9, the Hampton Roads Regional Bridge Study.
Again, another final report that we would be requesting your recommendation for board approval. Teresa was here again in May talking about the regional bridge study. The document went out for public comment May 7th through June 16th. And some of the comments received have been incorporated. And so today the final report is going to go to the board at the July meeting and requesting TTAC recommendation for board approval.
Motion to approve? Thank you. Second? Megan. Angela.
Angela.
Rika. And all in favor? Any opposed? All right, approves. Next one, third time's the charm, LRTP. Oop. Have to present for us here, and another action at the end of this presentation.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Dale was supposed to do this presentation, but she's not able to be here today. She said she's watching via live stream, and I think that's making me more nervous. So I'm actually stepping in for her. So this one is an action item, and you've heard from Dale and her team on the 2050 long-range transportation plan, and today we're talking about an update from a resiliency perspective. So when the 2050 LRTP, when we got started, our commitment was to ensure that we continue to enhance our project prioritization tool. We want it to be objective, data-driven, and when it comes to resiliency, while we had metrics before, we wanted to make sure that we are incorporating it in a more holistic, data-driven, objective manner. Our LRTP, as we tell people, is not just a list of projects. It is more than a good understanding of our transportation needs, looking at future scenarios, how we might grow, what types of projects are the most robust. We have a very data-driven project prioritization tool, but then we also want to ensure that with everything that changes in our region, are we selecting the projects that are resilient and are also minimize vulnerability. So that was kind of the lens, and we always tell people, while the LRTP, the final list of projects is key, there's so much that happens coming to that final list. So I just want to reiterate, it's a very broad process that we go through. So again, the scenarios, you've seen this slide many times. Three greater growth scenarios that we are looking in. One is the greater urban growth, one's greater suburban growth, and westward growth with the changes that we are seeing in the last decade with the movement in the western parts of our region. What will that mean for projects, transportation needs, and how do we make sure that our investments meets these different scenarios? I think Dell always says this. She says, we don't know what's going to happen. We cannot predict the future. So we're trying to look for all plausible futures. The one thing that we did as part of the 2050 LRTP is also when it comes to sea level rise and storm surge, we try to look at a variation of the sea level rise and storm surge. So as you see, 3 feet, 10 feet, all the way up to 4.5 feet and 100-year storm surge. And again, as I said, trying to plan for all of these futures helps us make the most financially sound investments for our region. So when we came, it was last year. I'm looking at the LRTP team. I think it was last year when we came to you all for transportation needs. We already had the resilience lens, right? So we didn't just say where are the vulnerabilities. We actually asked for how often does a road flood? Is it a local road? Like if a local road floods, yes, it might affect access to certain communities. But if it's a critical major corridor, what does that mean? How often? How long is the flooding? So we already put that resilience lens when we looked for the transportation needs last year. So one of the things we have is the project prioritization tool, and I think most of you have been involved in it in some form or the other. Some of you were there when the tool was first developed, and this has been continuously enhanced since we started. I'm not going to read every category here, but the three main things is we look at projects in terms of utility. Does it solve a transportation problem? We look at projects in terms of vitality. What is the potential of economic gain? And then we look at projects in terms of viability. Are they ready? Is it compatible with our plans? And within each of these categories, we look at various submetrics that we use to evaluate these projects. So we had criticality and resiliency measures. So again, it's not something we didn't have it. We just had it in, I would say, in a way, disconnected and separate categories. So resiliency and criticality were included in our prioritization tool. But as I said, we wanted to make it more holistic, make it more connected through all our prioritization categories. So why do we need to enhance criticality and resiliency? Again, I think we look at it in terms of three things: criticality, vulnerability, and accessibility. So identifying that relationship and understanding how we can improve helps us select the projects from a resilience perspective and ensures that the resilience lens is included through the entire prioritization framework. So when we look at resiliency, we make sure that the projects that when we have vulnerability to hazards, it rewards projects that maintain access and mobility. And then when you look at criticality, we ensure that we're complementing resiliency because we are identifying those projects that are going to help us not just in hazard events, but in all conditions. So I think that's the key that we are trying to do. Now, the devil's always in the details, right? So I would love to do all of this, but can we actually do it? Because the tools are not necessarily out there. It's not very easy. There's so many different hazard scenarios. We need to find a way to evaluate them in a consistent manner, especially when we look at our current list of candidate projects. It's 250 or so candidate projects. Can we do it consistently across the region? Can we look at different hazard scenarios? And then if we do it, can our current travel demand models handle it? So there are all these questions that come up. While we would always want to do this in a very holistic manner, there are some limitations that exist with current tools. So luckily for us, the US DOT, which is the US Department of Transportation Volpe Center, was working on this RDR tool, which is a robust tool to look at transportation resilience. And we, TPO staff, were involved with them as part of the pilot when the tool was being developed. And so this tool came into play, and because we were involved in the pilot, we were able to give feedback to them in such a way that the tool's outputs feed into our prioritization framework. So I think that a lot of effort that the LRTP team put in to work with Volpe on this tool, because you have researchers working on a project, and it's very different from the way we approach it, because we're also looking at, does this one, can it work for our region? Is it going to be consistent across? Will we have the data? So I think a lot of work happened to develop this tool. And so what this does is now, from the bigger advantage of because we work so closely, is the metrics from this tool feed directly into our prioritization tool. So that was another thing that we wanted to make sure that whatever we developed, it's not going to be a standalone thing. It's integrated. It works with our existing prioritization framework. So some the metrics that we think are notable is trip loss and critical access. So if a project, if there's a hazard situation, are we losing access to critical facility? Are we not able to make trips because a road is closed? What is the return on investment? And then finally, what's the regret? If we do not invest in a project, what does this mean? How much are we going to regret it? So the good news is all of this feeds right into our prioritization tool. And so in your agenda today, under the agenda item, you'll see a list of tables, which is kind of, we have a snapshot here. So these are the key proposed metrics. Some of these metrics are new. Some are metrics that were already there, which we have been able to refine now that we have the data from the RDR tool. And as I said, it's about trip loss, it's about return on investment, and it's about regret. How much are you going to regret if you do not invest? So in terms of how did this process play out, as I said, the LRTP team has been working with the subcommittee since the LRTP development started. Volpe has been engaged for the RDR tool. So all of this, the potential enhancements were discussed with the LRTP subcommittee. They had a meeting on May 7th. There was some feedback received, which was incorporated, and then we gave them a 2-week period. At that time, we did not receive any additional comments. We went out for public review from June 20th to July 3rd. June 24th, we had another meeting with the LRTP subcommittee. They recommend TTAC approval. So today, that's kind of why we are here today is one, so just to, before I ask for the action, what are we trying to do? Making sure it's a data-driven process. We are incorporating resiliency in a very holistic way, and we are incorporating it in such a way it fits into our existing framework. We are not creating something completely new, and then trying to make sure that it is balanced across all our prioritization categories. So that is, in a nutshell, the summary of enhancements that we have. And so today we are asking your TTAC's recommendation for TPO board approval. So the TPO board meeting's on July 16th. So this will be on the agenda. So we would need your approval today. But I'll be happy to take any questions. And I'm also volunteering Keith Nichols if some questions are tough. So
Any question? I think we're good. Thank you, Pavitra.
okay.
So what will we, like Pavitra mentioned, we'll be approving the proposed resiliency enhancements and use of the prioritization tool. So if I have a motion to approve those enhancements. Thank you. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. All right, next we have VDOT presenting on our 6-year improvement plan and what was approved recently. So Sonia, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Sonia Hallams-Ponton. I am currently acting as the Assistant District Administrator for the Planning and Investment section. And I am here today to give you an update on the 6-year improvement program. As Todd mentioned earlier, the program was adopted by the CTB at the June 24th meeting. So this first slide is giving you a snapshot of the draft versus what was in the final 6-year program. There was a total of $26.7 billion approved for the 6-year program, which was about $1 billion higher than what was shown for the draft. The highway construction program is a total of $19.6 billion. That includes $762.7 million in debt service. It also provides funding for 4,500 projects, And the current program includes $2.8 billion provided by others, including HRTAC. So there were some assumptions made for the final 6-year financial plan. Those included operations needed for the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel expansion. We also made some adjustments beginning in FY27 and beyond for VDOT maintenance activities, as well as financial assistance for localities. And lastly, we added $300 million in Garvey funds across FY27, FY29, and 2031. So some other highlights for the 6-year program: the revenue sharing state share will stay the same at $100 million annually. We will be adding the ITTF funding of $25 million annually. That is per state code. It's also the same for the unpaved roads funding, which is carved out from the construction district grant program. And then lastly, there was a passage of SB 1082. This is issuance of bonds for the special structures program. And we also updated the 6-year program for state of good repair funding to reflect the CUS bridges. And that was also approved in FY25 to add those CUS bridges. So some factors that impacted the final 6-year program: we conducted some spring public meetings. That happened statewide, April and May. We had the Hampton Roads meeting on April 24th. We also made some adjustments based on the Smart Scale Round 6 consensus scenario. And then we had to change some of our federal funding assumptions because we did see an increase in some of the federal apportionments. And then the I-81 program, we added additional $175 million from the general fund. So this is just a snapshot highlighting some of the major programs. And I'm going to talk about some of the outcomes for the Hampton Roads District. So anything you see in green, that was a change from the draft. So for the State of Good Repair program, that remained the same. The Highway Safety Improvement Program, we did see an increase. We actually received 11 applications in the Hampton Roads District. Only 2 applications were approved, and that was the City of Hampton. That was for a curve delineation project worth $326,000. And then the City of Norfolk was approved for raised crossings, and that was valued at $1.4 million. We also saw an increase in the RSTP funding and the congestion mitigation, the CMAC funds. You probably heard John Mahaley talk about that at the TPS meetings. So we received $234 million for Hampton Roads District for RSTP. And for CMAC, we received $14.8 million. So for this slide, we saw an increase for the Interstate Operations and Enhancement Program, and also an increase for the TAP funding. The Construction District Grant and the high priority projects, there was no changes there, but those funding pots are for Smart Scale. So go into more details about the State of Good Repair program. So we did have an application cycle this year for local bridges. We received 27 applications, and only 2 applications were screened in and approved. Both of those were in the city of Suffolk for over $42 million. One thing I want to say about this program is that we didn't receive as much funding as we thought we would for this cycle. And also, we received several incomplete applications. I know 2 localities have already reached out and wanted to have more information as to why their applications were not approved. So if you were one of those localities that would like more information about this, please feel free to reach out to me or someone on my team, and we'll get that scheduled for you. For the State of Good Repair local paving program, you probably heard our district engineer as well as Todd Halsey talk about how this is a good news story for our region. This is the second year that we received a second application cycle. And we were the only district to be offered this opportunity. And so what this is saying is that the Hampton Roads District is able to execute the SGR local paving program, able to execute these dollars. For the past 2 years, we have, I guess, about 90% of the SGR projects have been able to be advertised and awarded on time. And that's because a lot of it has to do with the process that we use. We've been able to get a federal exception, and we just recently got a federal exception for the second cycle also. So this is a good news story. This has also had a positive impact on our dashboard metrics because we've been able to get these projects awarded on time. So for the first application cycle, which was open in the fall, that was October through December, 22 applications were approved. And then in June, the application cycle was reopened. It closed on June 18th. We received 26 applications. Those applications projects will be presented to the CTB in July for action. So if that cycle is approved as well, we will have a total of $18.9 million of SGR local paving in our district. So smart scale, it's hard to see on the screen, but we received 31 applications for smart scale this year. The total value of those applications was over 700 million. We received requests for over $647 million. This next slide goes into more details as to how that funding was distributed across the state for smart scale. We received 270 applications statewide. Only 53 projects were approved. The Hampton Roads region, 11 projects were approved for over $140 million. Richmond District received the highest amount, which was like over $360 million for 16 projects. And this is the list of the 11 applications that were approved for funding. This next slide is showing the project type that was approved for smart scale in the Hampton Roads District. So we had 7 projects, highway project types that were approved, and 4 bike and ped. So real quick, wanted to give you guys an update on the revenue sharing program. We are currently screening applications. That pre-application cycle closed on May 30th. So we are now moving towards the final application. This is just a summary of the statewide pre-applications that were received, as well as what was received for Hampton Roads. There's no limit on the number of revenue sharing applications that you can submit, but localities can only apply for up to $10 million. And then this is just a snapshot also for the TAP program. Also showing you the statewide pre-applications versus the Hampton Roads pre-applications. With the TAP program, you were able to submit 8 pre-applications, but only 5 applications can move forward in the final application cycle. And as Todd mentioned, for both application cycles, it opens on August the 15th, and you have a month to complete that final application. And so that's due on September the 15th. So in the next couple of weeks, you should be hearing information from the local urban team in regards to the status of your applications. And then this is just a list of resources that you can use to find out more details about the 6-year program. as well as the Smart Scale Round 6. And then lastly, I have two announcements regarding the local programs. So the statewide local programs workshop, which is hosted by the local assistance division, it will be here in the city of Norfolk at the Main. I'm aware that Keith Darrow is part of the planning committee. He is planning some of the mobile workshops. That's usually the first day of the workshop. And, this is a good event to network. Registration opens on July the 9th. And then lastly, our locally administered construction team will be given a program overview on Tuesday, August the 5th, and that will be at the Hampton Roads District. So this is how you can contact me. I did put a icon, a tennis icon by my name because I just wanted to just share with you all because many of you have seen me over the years, but wanted to give you a fun fact that I'm currently learning how to play tennis. And I don't know if any of you watch tennis, but the number 2 player in the world, Coco Gauff, she actually was eliminated yesterday at Wimbledon. My game is more so like so-so golf because I'm like down the middle. I'm not that great. I'm not that mad, but that was probably her game yesterday because she was eliminated. But that's how I spend most of my spare time. And I thank you guys for that opportunity today to present. And if you have any questions, I will try to answer them.
Thank you, Sonia. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Sonia. Appreciate you coming. Oh,
Thank you.
Sorry.
I was going to mention something. It's not a question, so
Oh, okay.
you're good. But under the TA set aside or TAP program, I had an email sent out yesterday, a final reminder that if you haven't requested a letter of support for the HRTPO board already, yesterday was the day. Now, I have heard from one locality, but as Sonia mentioned, there were 20 applications. Right now, I only have coverage on 16 of them. So there are 4 errant projects out there that still need requests for a letter of support from the HRTPO board. And it has to happen now because the HRTPO board meets this month and not again until after the final applications are due in September. They won't meet again until October. So if you are working on one and still need to get it to me, talk to me afterwards today and just let me know that it's coming in. If I can just get a little bit of information, we can have it ready for the board agenda, which goes out next week. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we'll move on to our next presentation. Kendra Green is the director of the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation. Sorry, Kendra. She's been in that position for a few years now. For those who aren't familiar with the ERT, it's a over 10-mile trail throughout the city of Norfolk, mostly along the Elizabeth River, as the name indicates, going through parks, the roadways. So basically, you guys can get a nice waterfront view as you ride your bike, walk, get to downtown, and access a lot of major points throughout Norfolk. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Kendra.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Kendra Green, Executive Director of the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation. I'm glad to be here today. And I'm going to talk to you briefly just a little bit about the trail itself and then about the foundation, the nonprofit that takes care of it and advocates for it. So thank you again for having me. And I want to make sure that I'm clicking the right button. All right. Okay. So as Keith mentioned, the physical trail itself is 10.5 miles. The terminus currently is at Norfolk State University, right outside Norfolk State University at Brambleton. And it runs, again, 10.5 miles pretty close to the Elizabeth River, all the way to the Port of Virginia or the Norfolk International Terminals. That's all connected and about 95% off road. The master planning behind the trail was to stay as close to the river as possible so that we have that connection to the very important working and historic waterfront. And so much of our Elizabeth River is not open access to the public. It is a protected, again, off-road trail. And the main thing here is that along these 10 and a half miles, we are connecting nearly 30 neighborhoods within a 5-minute walk of the Elizabeth River Trail. And as you can see, we are really connecting all of these major economic generators, these employers, NSU, ODU, Centera, CHKD, and the port. So all of these economic generators to each other. So the physical trail itself has been evolving since the early 90s, really with a vision from the community to connect to the neighborhoods and to utilize the abandoned right of way from Norfolk Southern around the Fort Norfolk area and to highlight the historic Fort Norfolk. So it was really 30 years ago an initiative from citizens and some really visionary city planners to start advocating for the trail. But it wasn't until the ERT Foundation was formed that enhancements and activation really began. So I'm going to fast forward you real quick to 2015 when the Greater Norfolk Corporation kind of was really looking at how do we bring talent and attract talent and retain talent to this area? How do we how do we get businesses to be here and really, develop the area through economic generators? So they went to the business community and kind of young entrepreneurs and the up and coming businesses really said the answer is right in front of you. It's the Elizabeth River Trail. That's what folks want. That's how they want to commute. And so it was really a call to the business community. They rallied around it. And from the Greater Norfolk Corporation, the ERT Foundation formed in 2016, and with the mission to activate and enhance this trail. That mission has evolved over time, and I wanted to just point out that this mission is just about a year old. We have specifically stated a destination. We will intend to go north to the naval station and east to the VB Trail. I understand that my colleague Steve Lambert presented to this group regarding the VB Trail recently. So we wanted to really incorporate that as part of our mission. So again, our foundation does the planning, the programming, and the advocacy, but our vision has not wavered since the foundation was formed. You can see this map was from 2015, and the vision always was to go north to the naval station, east to Virginia Beach, because that regional connection just makes sense. We don't want to have a trail that goes to nowhere. So this has always been the case for us, and I just want to quickly go through these slides because I want to show you what we as the foundation have done with a capital campaign investment that started in 2016, and we have essentially branded the trail. We've installed 500 plus wayfinding signs. We have a very clear and recognizable brand and logo, didactic signs, really highlighting our green infrastructure in this very urban environment. We emphasize that there is something for everyone. We do not we are trying to unpack the story that we are not the bicycle lanes and we are not a bike trail. While there's nothing wrong with bike lanes, we of course support them, and that's very important to the overall infrastructure of the city. We are off-road intentionally for a reason. And in that development and enhancement, we've developed trail heads along the 10 and a half miles, places where people gather, trailhead shelters, amenities, parking areas, and where there'll be attractions that they can visit, restaurants, breweries, cafes, museums. We've invested, again, raising private funds for this public amenity, installing incredible world-class amenities, play sculptures, fitness courses, first of its kind in the East Coast glow-in-the-dark section of trail. So ADA accessible picnic tables, and again, working this whole way with resilient infrastructure. I highlight this particular slide as we're right there at the water. We often say we're at the doorstep to sea level rise. I appreciated the presentation on resilience. So we look wherever we can at green infrastructure, building living shorelines, native plantings, stormwater retention, and this particular open space area was built with porous materials to absorb flooding. So again, interactive play sculptures, kayak launches, and then where we can as a nonprofit foundation, improving connections. So again, we did a project, I think it's been about 3 years now, improving the connection from kind of the Harbor Park area to towards NSU. Widening what was actually, I'm going to go back a second. So you can see what was just an existing sidewalk, right? Which is now more of a trail, more of a 10-foot path. And then wherever we can, we will just improve an area, whether it's adopting a pocket park to create seating, just placemaking, implementing programming. This is how we get the community involved. This is how we get community buy-in. We have just an incredible volunteer corps. Their role is to patrol, observe, inform, report, and so they're reporting to the city. Hey, there's glass, there's graffiti. This is how you can help maintain. But often our trail ambassadors and volunteers are out doing these repairs and maintaining areas. The foundation itself maintains 7 green spaces, including a meadow. We do a ton of planting. And then I think I want to pause here for a moment to say that we started with a capital campaign to enhance this trail, and that was private funding. We did have a $500,000 investment from the city of Norfolk at that time, which was fabulous. But that pledge, that 5-year pledge kind of ran out. So I very quickly realized we need to tell the story of what is our economic impact to the city to continue growing, because I was seeing all this great work happening in Virginia Beach, right? This trail that they've been working on also for years was getting funded and was getting grants. So it became apparent that we needed an economic impact study. So I was able to get grant funds to fund that study, which occurred last year through Mangum Economics. At that point, we had been applied as an outside agency grant for the city of Norfolk and received $150,000 for for 2 years, for the last 2 years, to help with maintenance and operating of the trail and foundation. And the economic impact study revealed a 4-to-1 return on investment, nearly $19 million in impact to the city of Norfolk. And we expect that, we actually feel that's a little bit low, as some COVID numbers were looked at during that time. But we we see the impact. We see the businesses that have popped up all along the trail. There's a particular section in the Chelsea district that has really been transformed by the trail with small businesses, local cafes, bakeries, breweries, distilleries. It's just a great spot for people to stop and hop off their bikes or walk to. This is our foundation impact from last year. As you know, the fiscal year just ended Monday, so I'm compiling all of my numbers, but I can tell you with preliminary reports that everything has gone up about 15%. We average, last year, over 672,000 users. my count, I just did numbers this morning, and we have 5 counters on the trail that we run, we purchase and maintain. And I need to talk with Keith because I'm not sure that these numbers actually go to you. I at one point was talking with the open data folks, but our numbers from January 1st to June 30th of this calendar year are already up to 340,000 trail interactions. So again, just continuing to grow. And then we do all of the programming, over 100 programs a year. So again, what can we do right now while we are waiting for more funding, support, and infrastructure? We can continue fulfilling our capital campaign promise, which was to construct trailheads along this 10.5 miles. So this is the most recent one. This was in April at Lambert's Point, kind of a really amazing community, historically African American community near ODU. We can continue our outreach. We are working on some South Side outreach to Berkeley. So taking our programming to communities where we're waiting on infrastructure, we can take our programming, and then really working on storytelling, telling Norfolk's unique history. So we have a program in partnership with Truth Be Told Virginia that is grant funded by the National Park Service. I highly recommend the podcast. Truth Be Told Virginia Season 5 is completely ERT focused, taking real stories from our trail communities. So that's Sam Allen up there, historic Negro League Hall of Fame baseball player, and our Harbor Park is on our trail. So we get to hear his story. So this is our list of awards. Our foundation was completely volunteer run from 2016 to 2018 when we had our first executive director. I've been the ED since 2021, and I get to look at this. This is really exciting. And news as of last month. This is a huge deal for us. We've worked for years on this rigorous application, and we got our national recreational trail designation from the Department of Interior. So super exciting when the Washington Post calls me for an interview. So really, really exciting. So your local trail is doing big things. So this is our 10.5 miles. How do we get to Virginia Beach? We have to connect there. So quickly, I know that time is limited, but our work ahead is, I mentioned one of the termini is our most eastern termini is Norfolk State. We have a lot of work to do in that community. And so we've been doing the outreach around that university, tons of outreach with Chesterfield Heights, Grandee Village, the St. Paul's, the St. Paul's area. People who are local will know that's going through a big housing transformation. And we've been working with connections to the future St. Paul's Blue Greenway Park, and planning that. The Office of Transportation, Keith and his team have been really helpful in the plans for that. And big shout out to Rob Case here with HRTPO. Quick overview that in December of 2022, our master planning team went through a series of bike rides literally on our bike, writing out potential routes to create the plans for the extension. We would ride as far as we can and then hop on the tide and figure out ways to connect, working with WPA to create maps. The HRTPO accepted this as a work study program and compiled a work study cost model analysis for 2 potential routes, about $54 million for both routes, plus or minus. So as a foundation, right, this is not what we can fund, right? This is big federal infrastructure funding. So we can continue to do planning. We know Norfolk's coastal storm risk management, or seawall or flood wall, you might hear it called. The strategy would be to incorporate the ERT into the flood wall wherever possible. We do work with the Army Corps of Engineers. We have been early on this, really saying, hey, our mission, our master planning mission is that connection to the waterfront. We can't have a wall. Wherever we can, we have to incorporate the trail on top of the berms or the walls. So if everything goes through with the CSRM, the trail will be incorporated east, right, as part of the CSRM project at the mouth of Broad Creek, Nauticus to Compostela, as we move east. So again, that big connection to Virginia Beach. Steve, my colleague Steve Lambert told you all, incredible work that they're doing there. And yes, this has been in the works since the 80s, but the ERT has been in the works since the 90s. So, similar visions. Theirs is, of course, a 12-mile trail that spans the city. Again, my dear friend Walter presented to our board and shared this slide, Walter Camp. So, spanning the city. And I'm sure you all know the latest and greatest breaking news as of last Thursday, yet another $24 million grant, smart scale grant awarded to the VB Trail. So 2 miles were already built, and then as of, again, June 26th, 6 miles now fully funded. So that's 8 miles of their 12-mile trail. So the first section then, Newtown Road to Town Center. It's a 3.1-mile stretch. I got to walk it with a group in May. That's that Newtown Transit Hub. That's where our city line ends. So that's our gap, right? NSU to the Newtown Road Transit Hub. How do we make that happen for the ERT? So that's where we need the major funding, right? So for the last 2 years, the ERT Foundation has funded the writing of the grants for the RAISE infrastructure grants. We have again funded the grants consultant, written the grant, and worked closely with the Office of Transportation for data and all kinds of the logistics and termini information and maps, and then given that narrative to the City of Norfolk Office of Transportation team to submit it. So obviously last year, this is planning for this extension. And last year was a no. This year we are waiting, right? We are waiting. Keith and I have our fingers crossed. So if we are able to get this planning, grant at a large level, then who knows? But until then, until the infrastructure is in place, what the ERT Foundation can do is we can keep building that public support. And we've been doing that by bringing the programming to the communities where the trail doesn't go. So we have a big August field day happening, and that's actually going to be held at Poplar Hall Park, which is not on our current trail. It's where the future trail will go. So you can take the tide, get right off the tide, walk to the park, and we're going to start establishing that ERT presence. And we do that wherever we can, trailside pop-ups and off-trail pop-ups. Okay, next big project for us currently on the trail, the Larchmont farthest north trailhead, the Larchmont Library Trailhead, which has a major grant through the City of Norfolk Parks and Rec, will finally, it's actually starting construction next week. So we're thrilled. That'll have a kayak launch, a fully redeveloped infrastructure area, and just be a really beautiful gathering space. So I always, people ask how you can support. Really, for this group, my main ask for you all is advocacy. That's really what the foundation needs. I feel like Virginia Beach is, yes, it took them a long time to get there. What might sound like an overnight success to some people who are hearing all of these grants be awarded. We understand it's taken years, but that's kind of where we're at too. But the city of Norfolk, as a whole, not disparagingly, please, but is far behind where the city of Virginia Beach is in terms of full-on city support for this regional connection. So really, that's what I would love to. That's what I'm here to really ask you. We need your advocacy. We need a regional connection. We know that the country's trail system generates $34 billion in economic activity annually. That's Rails to Trails Conservancy study. And that can more than quadruple as trail systems are connected. So again, we have to be part of that Southampton Roads trail system and that trail network. And the first step is closing that gap from NSU to Newtown Road to connect to the VB Trail. So I always leave you with a cute dog photo and invite you to come join us on the trail. But there's my information. I have, of course, our RAC cards, which have some details on it, our map on the back of our connected trail, and I'll leave some of those out on the table, but I am happy to answer any questions while I'm here.
Thank you, Kendra. Any questions or comments?
Kendra, thank you so much. And I just want TTAC members, I know one of the feedback we received was hearing about efforts across the region. So that's why we've been trying to get like Virginia Beach. Now it's Norfolk, and it's part of the Southampton Roads Trail. So some of you are working as part of the Southampton Roads Trail wayfinding as part of the Active Transportation Subcommittee. Kendra, I know previously you also do these like site tours, right? Like the glow in the park. And so it's a really cool trail. So reach out to Kendra if you want a tour, especially the glow in the dark. It's the first on the East Coast.
It is. It's the
and
first on the East Coast, and it continues. We installed it in 2022. We did a big ribbon cutting and a party, and it was so much fun that we've made it an annual event. So we do a glow party every November, and it continues to get traction. In fact, there was just an article in Inform magazine last month. So I get interviewed about it all the time because it's so exciting and fun. And quick update too on that. I get contacted from department DOTs all over the country asking specifically about that project, and it was done. Yes, it's beautiful, and yes, it's cool, but it's a safety and lighting issue. It addressed a very real safety issue in a very dark section of trail because it runs through a park. Parks are closed from dusk to dawn. The trail is open 24/7. The trail is transportation. The trail is infrastructure. So we had to light the trail, make sure people were safe, not light the park around it. So anyway, real quick, the Florida has they talked to us, and there's a county in the coast that is implementing that same project to solve a similar issue, which is really exciting. Yeah, contact me. I'd love to lead a tour.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Kendra, and congrats on the designation. All right, wrapping up the agenda here. You guys can see our 3 months schedule. There will be no meeting next month, correct? All right. Yeah, unless, I don't want one, but if anyone else wants one, all right, there we go. Okay, so we will see each other again in September, and got a full agenda already ahead of us. After that, we guys have some announcements, or excuse me, some for your information, some meeting minutes in there as well. And then we have your announcements, just of upcoming meetings for those meetings that have either been canceled or the ones that we are having. And with that, I will open it up to old or new business. Anybody have anything? Oh, yes, go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, I never talk at these meetings, but this is going to be my last TTAC meeting. I'm leaving HRT. So you will probably see Ray Maruso or Keisha Branch in my place, but it was nice working with you all for the past almost 3 years.
Oh, man, that's just you and Todd, I swear. Jared, it's been a pleasure working with you and hope to stay in touch. So thank you. Todd, you as well. Obviously, you'll still be very involved. So thank you guys both for your time with TTAC and appreciate y'all's input. So anyone else leaving TTAC? Just, or, all right, if there's no new business, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. 2 bombshells. Jesus. Did you know about either of them?
Well,